At 72 years old, Henry Carter still woke up every morning believing he was stronger than time itself. A retired firefighter from a quiet town in Vermont, Henry prided himself on his resilience. But lately, small, unsettling signs began to creep into his daily life. Struggling to stand from his favorite armchair, a slight stumble while navigating the back porch, or a deep fatigue after simple tasks. What he didn't realize was that his body was under siege by an invisible enemy: sarcopenia, the silent, devastating loss of muscle that strikes without warning. It wasn't just getting older. It was a dangerous breakdown happening inside his very muscles, stealing his independence inch by inch. As he sat by his living room window one rainy afternoon, Henry stumbled across a medical journal left behind by his grandson. One headline froze him in place: "Foods that can rebuild muscle mass after 60." His heart pounded with a mixture of fear and hope. Could it really be possible to fight back? To regain the strength he thought was slipping away forever? Little did Henry know, the journey he was about to embark on would not only save his strength, it would redefine the way he lived the rest of his life. Worried about muscle loss? Type 1 to find out the one food seniors need to stay strong. The moment Henry read that headline, something inside him stirred. Something that had been dormant for too long, a flicker of hope. That evening, he sat at his old oak dining table, flipping through the article with trembling hands. Words like muscle regeneration, bioactive compounds, and reverse muscle loss leapt off the page, challenging everything he thought he knew about aging. The article spoke of foods, ordinary foods, that carried extraordinary powers. Not pills, not surgery, but simple ingredients nature had always offered. Greek yogurt, fatty fish, dark leafy greens. Things Henry had once loved but had slowly abandoned for easier, processed meals over the years. That night, Henry made a decision. No more waiting, no more accepting weakness as his fate. If there was a way to reclaim even a piece of his old strength, he would find it. The very next morning, he stood in a small kitchen he and his late wife had built together decades ago. Dusting off an unused shopping list pad, he wrote with determination: Greek yogurt, salmon, spinach, olive oil, almonds, berries. Each item was more than just a food. It was a weapon in his personal battle to stay strong, stay standing, stay free. At the local market, Henry felt oddly nervous pushing his cart down the fresh produce aisle. He picked up a vibrant bunch of spinach and smiled. He wasn't just shopping, he was fighting back. Other shoppers, younger and more sprightly, moved past him without notice. But Henry didn't care. For the first time in months, he felt a sense of control, of purpose. Back home, Henry carefully prepared a simple meal: grilled salmon with a side of sautéed spinach and a bowl of Greek yogurt topped with blueberries. As he sat down to eat, he whispered under his breath, "For you, Margaret, and for me." What Henry didn't realize then was that he wasn't just nourishing his body, he was reigniting a fire inside his spirit, a fire that aging, fear, and grief had tried to extinguish, but hadn't succeeded. That small act, choosing the right foods, choosing hope, would set into motion a transformation he could scarcely imagine. Henry was no longer a passive victim of time. He was a man on a mission to take back his strength, his independence, and his life. 2 weeks into his new journey, Henry already noticed subtle changes. His steps felt steadier, and the ache in his knees seemed less fierce. Encouraged, he decided to push himself further. He would join the Saturday morning walking club at Maplewood Park, a group he had watched from a distance for months, always believing it was beyond his reach. That chilly Saturday morning, Henry laced up his worn sneakers, pulled on his old jacket, and headed toward the park. As he approached the gathering of cheerful seniors stretching and laughing together, a familiar voice rang out. "Henry, is that you?" It was Eleanor Wright, his old neighbor from 3 streets over. She was vibrant, holding a walking stick more as a symbol than a necessity. Henry smiled, heart pounding, part excitement, part fear. "I'm here to walk," he said, almost surprising himself. The group set off, moving along the trail under a canopy of golden autumn leaves. For the first half-mile, Henry kept pace, chatting and laughing, feeling alive in a way he hadn't in years. But then, as they climbed a small hill, a wave of dizziness hit him hard. His legs wobbled, his vision blurred. Panic gripped his chest. Before he could fall, Eleanor caught his arm. "Easy now, Henry. Sit for a moment," she said gently, guiding him to a nearby bench. Henry sat there, fists clenched, battling the humiliation and frustration welling inside him. He had fought so hard. Was it all for nothing? Eleanor sat beside him, placing a warm hand on his shoulder. "Listen," she said quietly, "this isn't failure. This is proof you're trying. Strength doesn't rebuild overnight. It rebuilds in moments like this, when you refuse to quit." Henry blinked against the sting of tears. Her words pierced deeper than the cold autumn air. She was right. He wasn't failing. He was fighting. After a few minutes, Henry stood again. Not as steady, not as strong as he wanted, but stronger than the man who once sat alone, letting life pass him by. From that day forward, Henry vowed to honor the struggle, not fear it. Every stumble, every ache, every breathless moment would be a step closer to the man he was determined to become again. The scare at Maplewood Park could have broken Henry's spirit. A few years ago, it would have. He would have retreated, convincing himself he was too old, too frail, too far gone. But something had changed. Sitting on that bench, feeling the brisk autumn wind against his skin, Henry realized he was tired. Tired of living like a man waiting for life to shrink around him. That moment wasn't defeat. It was a line in the sand. Instead of giving up, Henry leaned in harder. He began studying everything he could about muscle health, senior nutrition, and aging gracefully. He subscribed to newsletters from Harvard Medical School, watched lectures from gerontologists, and even signed up for a beginner's strength training class at the community center, something he would have never dared a month ago. His approach to food transformed too. Meals became deliberate rituals of self-respect rather than rushed necessities. Breakfasts of oatmeal mixed with Greek yogurt and berries. Lunches of grilled chicken salads drizzled with olive oil. Dinners of roasted salmon with sides of sautéed greens. Snacks of almonds and avocado toast. Each bite wasn't just nourishment. It was a bold statement. I am not giving up. Henry's family noticed the difference almost immediately. His daughter, Ava, hugged him tighter one Sunday afternoon and whispered, "Dad, you seem lighter, happier." He simply smiled, feeling a quiet pride he hadn't tasted in years. It wasn't about trying to be 20 again. It was about refusing to let age dictate who he could become. The following Saturday, Henry returned to Maplewood Park. This time, he paced himself, breathing deeply, moving with purpose. Eleanor waved him over with a proud grin. He didn't try to match others' strides. He honored his own. And when he crested that small hill, the same one that had nearly defeated him just a week before, he felt a surge of victory unlike anything he'd experienced since his firefighting days. Henry Carter wasn't just growing stronger physically, he was reclaiming his mind, his joy, and most importantly, his sense of possibility. For the first time in a long time, the road ahead looked not frightening, but wide open, waiting for him to take the next step. As the weeks turned into months, Henry's body responded in ways he hadn't dared to hope for. His legs felt firmer. His steps carried more certainty. Even simple tasks, carrying groceries, climbing porch steps, became victories instead of struggles. One afternoon, while sipping a protein-packed smoothie at the local cafe, Henry noticed a flyer pinned to the bulletin board. Volunteer fitness coach needed. Help other seniors stay strong. The words leapt off the paper. His heart raced. Could he really step into a role like that? Was he ready to not just rebuild himself, but to lift others too? That night, he lay awake, turning the idea over in his mind. He thought about the loneliness he'd felt after Margaret passed, about the invisible battles so many seniors fought daily, the fear, the weakness, the slow surrender. If he could help even one person reclaim their spark, it would be worth it. The next morning, Henry marched into the senior center, the same place where months ago he'd been too intimidated to even attend a class. He found the coordinator, a bright-eyed woman named Sophia Martinez, and without hesitation said, "I'd like to volunteer." Sophia's face lit up. "We've been waiting for someone like you," she said. Before long, Henry was leading small groups in simple strength-building exercises, teaching others the very things that had brought him back to life. He shared what he learned about nutrition too, passionately explaining the power of Greek yogurt, leafy greens, and healthy fats. His enthusiasm was infectious. People listened, laughed, and tried. Week by week, Henry watched others transform, just as he had. One woman who could barely stand without assistance began walking laps around the gym. A widower who had almost given up started lifting small hand weights with pride. And somewhere along the way, Henry realized that in giving back, he was healing deeper wounds within himself. It wasn't just about muscles anymore. It was about connection, about dignity, about hope. He had turned his private battle into a public blessing. What once felt like the end of the road had become the opening chapter to a brand new purpose. And every time Henry saw a fellow senior stand taller, smile brighter, or take a confident step forward, he knew he wasn't just saving their strength, he was helping them rediscover their lives. The months rolled by, and Henry's transformation was undeniable, not just to others, but to himself. His body grew stronger, yes, but something even more profound blossomed within. A quiet but unshakable confidence that had nothing to do with muscle and everything to do with mindset. Gone was the man who sat alone in the evenings, fearing the slow erosion of his independence. In his place stood someone who faced life's uncertainties head-on, believing in resilience over resignation. At 73, Henry wasn't trying to chase youth. He was redefining what it meant to age. His calendar, once painfully empty, was now filled with fitness classes, nutrition workshops, and group outings with the friends he'd met through the center. His laughter echoed through Maplewood Park on their weekend walks. His eyes lit up whenever a fellow senior beamed with pride after a milestone, whether it was completing a set of squats or simply standing a little taller. More importantly, Henry had learned to embrace the setbacks too. There were still days his joints ached, days he moved slower, but he no longer saw these moments as defeats. They were simply reminders that strength isn't measured by perfection. It's measured by perseverance. One afternoon, Sophia approached him after a class and said, "Henry, you've changed the atmosphere around here. People believe again in themselves, in life." He chuckled, a warm, raspy laugh. "I guess I just needed to believe it first," he replied. At home, Henry had created a small victory wall in his den. Taped along the wooden panels were snapshots of the people he'd helped. Smiling faces, handwritten notes of gratitude, photos of small groups flexing their arms in mock seriousness. Every time he glanced at it, he remembered why he started. And when he thought of Margaret, he didn't feel sadness anymore. He felt connected to her in a deeper way. She would have been proud of the man who chose to fight back, of the man who found new life in giving others a second chance at theirs. Henry Carter hadn't just rebuilt his muscles. He had rebuilt his spirit, one determined step at a time. The crisp spring air danced across Maplewood Park as Henry Carter stood before a gathering of familiar faces, people he now proudly called his second family. Today was a special day. The Senior Center had organized a Stronger Together walkathon, and Henry had been asked to say a few words before they set off. He gripped the microphone a little too tightly at first, nerves fluttering in his chest. But as he looked out at the sea of smiling, determined faces, many of them once frail and unsure, now standing tall and vibrant, his heart settled. 6 months ago, Henry began, his voice steady, I couldn't walk to the end of my driveway without feeling like I was carrying the weight of the world. I thought getting weaker was just part of growing older. I thought it was normal to feel like life was closing in on me. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle over the crowd. But what I learned is this: aging isn't a sentence, it's a challenge. And challenges are meant to be met head-on. Every healthy meal, every small walk, every attempt to move a little more or nourish our bodies better, it matters. It adds up. Henry scanned the crowd and spotted Eleanor waving at him, her walking stick now a mere accessory rather than a necessity. He smiled warmly. "You're never too old to fight for your strength," he continued. "You're never too far gone to rediscover the fire inside you. We don't just grow older, we can grow stronger too. Stronger in spirit, stronger in community, stronger in hope." The applause that erupted wasn't just polite, it was thunderous, heartfelt. Tears welled in Henry's eyes, but he let them come freely. They were not tears of sadness, they were tears of triumph. That morning, as the group set off walking under the budding trees, Henry walked at the front, not as a man fighting decline, but as a leader embracing a vibrant, hopeful future. Each step wasn't just movement, it was a declaration: we are not finished, we are just getting started. Henry Carter's journey reminds us that strength isn't something reserved for the young. It's a fire that can be reignited at any age. Life will inevitably bring change, loss, and challenge, but it also offers endless chances for renewal if we choose to reach for them. Growing older doesn't mean growing weaker unless we surrender to that belief. By embracing small daily choices, choosing the right foods, moving our bodies with intention, seeking out community support, we have the power to rewrite the narrative of aging. Henry's story is proof that setbacks are not the end of the road. They are invitations to rise higher, to fight harder, and to believe in our own capacity to adapt and thrive. True strength is not about resisting age. It's about honoring the life still burning fiercely within us, step by determined step. If you're over 60 and beginning to notice changes in your strength, don't wait. Start today. Begin by adding 1 or 2 powerful foods into your meals. Greek yogurt, fatty fish, dark leafy greens, and gradually build a plate that supports your muscles and your spirit. Pair smart nutrition with gentle, consistent movement. Short walks, basic strength exercises, stretching. Small efforts compound over time. And just as importantly, find your community, a walking group, a fitness class, even a friend to check in with weekly. Aging with strength is not a solitary journey, it's a shared triumph. Like Henry, your second chapter could be your strongest yet. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like and share with your friends. Your support keeps these stories alive. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a new episode. And if today's story touched your heart, leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Take care, stay well, and see you in the next story.